It's the Blue Jays This Week vodcast. Ben Ennis and Mike Wilner. Second last vodcast of the season. Mike, I can't believe we're finally here. It's kind of sad. Next week is going to be sad, but I mean, it's a little sad.
It's the penultimate vodcast of the season.
Thank you for saying that, because I almost forgot to say penultimate. Any chance you get to say penultimate, you kind of have to take it.
We're sitting here prior to the beginning of the penultimate home series of the season, the end of the penultimate homestand of the season.
and the Blue Jays are dropping like flies right now.
Really, they're having their issues, definitely.
We'll get to Edwin in just a second, who has been shut down for the season as well. But Brett Cecil, he's also done for the season, was great in relief this year. I heard somebody float out the other day that, you know, this team was desperate for starting pitching all season long. They were running out Ramon Ortiz. They were running out guys like Todd Redmond, who actually showed some pretty good promise there. And some people maybe wondered why they didn't give Brett Cecil another look.
A lot of people wondered, I think, why they didn't give Brett Cecil another look in the rotation. And for me, it was a very simple case of if it ain't broke, don't break it. Brett Cecil took to relieving so well.
Yeah.
And you know,
he had his moments as a starter as well.
He did. But his overall CV as a starting pitcher was not great. And the fact that he'd managed to have that jump in velocity out of the bullpen where he could just air it out for 5 or 6 hitters. I mean, it's easy to forget now in the gloom of what's gone on the last couple of months how dominant he was prior to the All-Star break out of the bullpen. He was ridiculous.
Not just against lefties either.
No, and he almost threw a perfect game. And you put it all together in relief. He was fantastic, and they really found something. He never had to go through a lineup more than once. He could air it out, as I said, for 2, 5 outs, however many they asked him for. You'd be really, really happy with that and say, all right, we've got ourselves a gem here in the bullpen, a late-inning lefty for the next few years. That's fine. We'll take that. Thank you very much.
You talked to him, or at least in the scrum.
Did, yeah.
You did talk to him personally. It wasn't a one-on-one interview or anything.
Later, I talked to him one-on-one.
Okay, so what's
he's that kind of guy?
Yeah,
do that,
he's a good dude,
Yeah.
and last time he has to do it this season, so I'm sure he's glad to get it out of the way. But so what is the scenario for him? How serious is this injury?
He doesn't think it's serious at all. He thinks it's a nerve inflammation, and from what all the doctors have told him and the trainers and everybody, he's passed all the ligament tests that they do, but he's going to have a precautionary MRI anyway. It first flared up in Houston, which was a month ago, and they shut it down for a few days. Came back, was fine, but after the last time he pitched, it hurt again. And again, he believes it's nerve and it's not ligament, and that's what he's been, like, everybody's agreeing with him. So he'll have a precautionary MRI because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll be back and he'll be fine next year.
You just hope in February he doesn't have to have Tommy John or something.
Right.
Although I guess it wouldn't make much of a difference between now and February.
Yeah, and I think they'll know now with this MRI this week if it has to happen. And Edwin's having wrist surgery, of course, so everything's wonderful.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Edwin in just a second. But before we do, I want to talk about Mariano Rivera. Last week we said we were going to try and get him, and understandably, he's done a lot of media this season, and that series in Boston, I'm sure, was pretty overwhelming.
Right, and very often when a guy comes to a city in the situation in which Rivera is coming, they'll say, all right, he's going to do one day, one thing at a podium, no one-on-ones, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
We tried.
Did you see?
For you, we tried.
We made our best attempt. Now, what'd you think of the situation in Boston there, where they gave him the 42 off the scoreboard, off the Green Monster, and then they gave him an autographed painting of him doffing his cap to the crowd after they jokingly cheered him opening day after the 2004 World Series where he blew that save in Game 4?
You know what? It's great to have a sense of humor about this kind of thing, right? I mean, if he'd pitched in Arizona this year, and I'm not sure if he did or not, but would they have given him a portrait of Luis Gonzalez?
Well, Keith Olbermann had a nice little soliloquy about that whole situation, about how the Red Sox did kind of make it about themselves instead of about Mariano Rivera.
That's fine. Whatever. They had to do something. It's Boston and New York. They couldn't possibly play it straight.
No.
You have to do something, and that's fine. But does that mean when I'm at Fenway on Friday, the 42's not going to be up there on the wall?
I guess not.
There'll be another one, I think.
No, sorry. Not the 42, not the Jackie Robinson 42, but the 42 when they put the picture up on the scoreboard.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, because it's the last time they'll have to use it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and I don't think there's any doubt that Mariano Rivera is the best reliever of all time, and you would agree with that?
There's always room for debate. Dennis Eckersley was a phenomenal late-inning reliever. He had a year where he had more wins than walks.
I think on the overall, Dennis Eckersley's a better pitcher than Mariano Rivera.
But
as a pure
no-hitter and all that stuff,
reliever,
Raleigh Fingers was a dominant reliever. Goose Gossage at his peak
the
was
playoff
an
stats are
reliever.
unreal.
The
for
playoff
Rivera.
stats are unreal.
The ERA
and
under
when
1.
You consider too, he had 3 absolutely massive blown saves in the playoffs.
Yep.
And he still has an ERA under 1 for the playoffs.
And the Red Sox did own him.
Yeah, well, they owned him that year, that's for sure. And, I think it's very difficult for me to say this guy was absolutely the best, especially with the things we saw Eckersley do in the late 80s. But we can say that he did it for the longest. He was certainly the most consistent, and he was the most dominant for the longest of any reliever ever.
I would say, and I don't know if you agree, his standing all time as a baseball player as a whole is overrated because he was a reliever and he didn't pitch that many innings and he was not a starter. I really think that his place overall as a ranking as a baseball player in history, I think, has been a little bit overstated. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I won't disagree with that. But we've seen over the years how important it is to have that shutdown guy in the 9th inning that can get.
But
the
we've
job
also
done.
seen guys be able to step into that role without any problem.
Once in a while, right? But not for long. Maybe is the better way to say it, right? And they'll fade away. And he's been the closer since 1997.
John Wetland.
John Wetland did it in 96, and he set him up, and they won the World Series. They tried to start him in 95, and that didn't work out at all. But so 17 years, and he missed the 1 year last season. 16 years of doing it and being dominant. There's certainly something to be said for that. But yeah, you're right. He pitched 60 innings a year, and he had a huge impact on the end of games. But there are other pitchers who had greater impacts on him. So in the overall baseball playerness, and that's why there are only a couple of closers in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But this guy might be the first 100%er.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to find anyone with anything negative to say about Mariano Rivera.
He has done a great job, too, off the field of keeping his nose clean and staying out and doing good things.
Makes you think that he's legitimately a good dude.
He may well be.
Yeah.
Well, if he was, he would have done this.
But it's going to be fun to see him make his last appearance ever here at Rogers Center.
If he does.
Well,
what if the Blue Jays blow him out 3 straight games?
It's possible as well. He's going to need some work because he didn't work in that Red Sox series at all. Anyways, Edwin Encarnacion, you're not going to see him again, at least this season, at Rogers Center. He is the subject of our Ford Leaders in the Field segment.
Ford Leaders in the Field. Presented by the 2013 Ford F-150, Canada's Player of the Year for 47 years running.
So Edwin Encarnacion done for the season. He's got a wrist problem. Jose Bautista's season was ended a year ago because of a wrist problem as well. He had to have surgery. Edwin's going to need surgery. Whenever you're dealing with a power hitter and you're talking about a wrist, that's troublesome.
It is. It absolutely is. And the last time Edwin had surgery on his wrist, he had to go back and do it again, and it took him really 2.5 years until he became a very good hitter again. But he says this is just a cleanup. He's also said that every swing he's taken the last 2 weeks has hurt him, and he did hit a bunch of home runs in the last 2 weeks, including some monster shots in Arizona when we were out there.
Every pitch Brad Radke ever threw hurt him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he could have had shoulder surgery in, probably 5 years before he retired, Brad Radke, but he wanted to pitch through it. So, Bautista's was different. It was just a tendon sheath that didn't have anything to do with the inner workings of the wrist. I don't know where Edwin's problem is, but again, he's confident, cleaning it up, getting him healthy, and Lord knows the guy's been through enough wrist surgeries. One would think that he's pretty well aware of what's going on in there.
Yeah, you hope that he comes back and is anything near what he was this year. And Jose Bautista didn't seem to miss much coming back from his different wrist injury. Moises Sierra is opening a lot of eyes again here in September. Didn't have a great year in the minor leagues, really.
Had a bad year.
Had a very bad year.
306 on base, struck out in more than a quarter of his plate appearances, hit about 250, 11 homers. Not a good year at all in the minor leagues.
He is out of options.
Yep.
So what do the Blue Jays do with him? It is going to be interesting to see.
Here's what I think they're going to do. I don't make predictions. Here's what I think they're going to do.
This could be a vodcast first, second last vodcast. He's making a prediction for the first time ever.
I think they're going to trade him.
Really?
I think that the way he's played this September, there are some scouts I've heard already about scouts upstairs watching this, just drooling over the guy. His raw talent and his natural ability is off the charts ridiculous. His baseball sense equally off the charts ridiculous, but in a different direction. But he's 24 years old. He's got pop. He's got a fantastic arm. He has 11 doubles in 12 games in September.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
you can see when people come and they're only watching you for a week. I mean, that's the reason that the Blue Jays have Steve Delabar right now, because Eric Thames went into Seattle and killed them. And the Mariners said, you know what? This is a guy we want. And that's happening right now with Moises Sierra. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what happens. And that's happening now with Sierra. So I don't think he's like, he brings back a huge return, but I think he's a mid-level prospect piece. No, I think he's a key piece in a package in an off-season trade that brings the Blue Jays someone who can help them in 2014.
A starter?
They hope so.
Maybe they go after the National League Cy Young Award winner again. But I think that's Clayton Kershaw.
I take this one.
Yeah.
I take this one in a heartbeat.
That one might be a little tougher to get as well.
A little bit.
A little bit, who is having an historic start to his career as well. All right, so the Blue Jays have this series against the Yankees, go out on the road, and then come back for 3 more against the Rays. Before we go, Mike, I want to
Moises Sierra is taking his cuts right now as we talk about him.
Yeah, I just
right
grabbed
there in the cage. Yeah, so
I hope the scouts weren't looking at that last swing because not great.
They're not here yet, or they're eating.
Okay. Before we wrap this one up, Mike, it's already been a great September for baseball fans, and we're only halfway through it as far as the playoff races are concerned. It's so jammed up there.
Not the American League.
Yeah,
National League kind of sucks.
No, but the Central and the Nationals are making some noise.
Yeah.
And the Central, and winning that Central division is huge.
Be big.
That's important.
Absolutely.
But sticking in the American League, because that's who we see the most and who most people that are watching this see the most. Of those teams, you got Texas free-falling again.
Yep.
The Rays, they've been not playing so hot either. The Yankees get swept by the Red Sox again. Yeah. The Indians, maybe the best of the lot right now, and the Royals are still there.
Crazy. It is crazy to think that the Indians might be the best of the bunch, but they might.
Yeah.
And they may wind up with that first wild card, which all you get is to host the game. But I'd rather have an October game in Cleveland if I'm the Indians than in a dome in Tampa.
Just as long as there's no bugs again.
Oh, the bugs would be awesome. I'd trade for Jabba just to have them. You know what? I have no idea. There are people who are writing off the Rangers because they've been so terrible, but all they need to do is come back. All Tampa and Texas
in a playoff
really
position
need to
right
do
now
is have a good week, and they'll be fine again.
Yeah.
The Yankees are in trouble because they're dropping like flies too, as much as the Blue Jays, and they got 3 teams to climb over, right?
Of all those 5 teams, they've been the team with the worst run differential, so you could say that they've been the luckiest to be where they are.
Absolutely they have, and I don't think there's anyone who would dispute that. The Blue Jays are going to have a lot to say about this because they have
forgot to mention the Orioles
13 games left as we sit here today. 3 of them are against New York, 3 of them are against Baltimore, and 3 of them are against Tampa. Now, by the time they get to Tampa, that might all be done. But those 3 games against New York and Baltimore might be kind of huge. And you've got a skeleton crew of Blue Jays right now with having a hard time. So they may have a lot to say about that, but not in the way they want to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in seeing how it progresses. And what's crazy about it is that we're going to watch this great race over the last 2 weeks of the season, and it's already been going for a couple of weeks, to eliminate 3 teams. And then the one that gets to exhale and, hey, we made it, is going to be eliminated the next day.
Yeah. But I love the 2 wild card system. It's going to be a great end of September. All right, one more of these to go.
I still want my wild card weekend thing happening.
What is that?
You don't know that? Really? I've been advocating this for like 6 years.
Oh, is it like a wild card playoff thing?
One single game elimination between the 4 best non-division winners.
Yeah, maybe in 20 years.
In New Orleans or Vegas or something.
Fake. On the moon.
On the moon. It would be transportation issues.
All right, one more of these to go. We'll be back with you next week. He's Mike Wilner. Follow him on Twitter, @Wilnerness59. You can follow me on Twitter as well, @BennisSnet. We'll see you next week.